This is Jen, and I make useful English Lit study videos about Shakespeare, poetry, fiction, literary devices, and more. In today's video, we're dealing with what most Lit students would consider to be the elephant in the room, and that is scansion. Scansion! Specifically, scansion, meter, and rhythm, which are in fact all related terms in literary analysis. So in the next few minutes, I'll be explaining what these terms mean, what key types of meter and rhythm there are, and demonstrating how to scan a text for meter and rhythm so that you can write a top grade analysis. And if you're a Lit student, you know you need this video, because scansion can often be the key to unlocking deeper insights into a text, which will massively add to the quality and depth of your analysis. So stick around, I promise that it will be a challenging but fun ride. So, what are scansion, meter, and rhythm? And how are they related? Here's a diagram for a quick visualization. So you've probably noticed from the diagram that scansion is the act of reading, or more specifically scanning, a text for the purpose of identifying its meter and rhythm. So scansion is the umbrella term, okay, under which meter and rhythm fall. Meter refers to the number of poetic feet in any given line, and a poetic foot is determined by rhythmic units, which are composed by stressed or unstressed syllables. Now this means that the metrical feet of any poetic line is the total number of its rhythmic units. More on this in the next section of our video. But first, notice that I say poetic foot, which should tell us that scansion applies only to verse, i.e. poetry or verse drama like Shakespeare's plays. Because we rarely discuss scansion in prose analysis, but for more artful prose like the ones written by Vladimir Nabokov, John Updike, or someone like Annie Dillard, we can sometimes comment on the rhythmic flow of sentences, but this is more of a stylistic than a formal point, which we can talk about in another video. Now, you've probably come across the term iambic pentameter in your study of Shakespeare or poetry, and that's because iambic pentameter is the most popular metrical foot in English literature. Apart from the most obvious Shakespearean plays, Shakespeare's sonnets and Milton's blank verse are also written in iambic pentameter. And an example of Milton's blank verse would of course be the epic Paradise Lost. But what does iambic pentameter actually mean? Iambic refers to the rhythmic unit, and pentameter is the metrical foot. To understand what iambic and pentameter mean, let's take a look at the different types of meter and rhythm in the following table. So English prosody rarely goes beyond 8 feet per line, which is why our list ends with octameter. And there are other more obscure types of rhythmic units like pyrrhic, cretic, etc. But these are super technical terms that 99% of the population doesn't use, so don't worry too much about knowing them unless you're a scansion geek and find it super interesting. In which case, I actually recommend Stephen Fry's book, An Ode Less Travelled, which is a lively, engaging, and eloquent explainer of scansion and poetry in general. Link to the book in the description box below. So now that we've got all the base knowledge, how do we scan a line to figure out its metrical feet and rhythmic unit? And here are 4 steps. Step 1, don't worry about scansion to begin with. Just read the lines aloud to get an organic feel for the poem's rhythm. Step 2, ask yourself, do the lines feel natural and well-paced when you read them aloud? If so, chances are we're looking at iambic pentameter, because this is the prosodic type that most closely approximates the natural flow of the English language. So check if the lines contain 5 sets of unstressed stressed syllables. The first line in Shakespeare's Sonnet 18, "Should I compare thee to a summer's day," would be an example. Step 3. If it's not iambic pentameter, then ask yourself if the lines feel forced, heavy, or propulsive. If so, then we're most probably dealing with stress-on-stress rhythmic units, in which case it'll either be trochaic or dactylic. A quicker rhythm could point to trochaic because a trochee has only 2 syllables, whereas a slower rhythm may be dactylic because a dactyl contains 3 syllables. To see which one it is, then count how many sets there are to ascertain the meter. Step 4. If it's not iambic, trochaic, or dactylic, then chances are this poem contains more than one type of rhythmic unit and may include anapestic and ampibrachic units. Or in rarer cases, it could be an entirely anapestic or ampibrachic poem. If so, an anapestic poem is going to sound very much like a waltz, being like da-da-da, 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 whereas an ampibrachic poem will come across kind of merry-go-round-esque and song-like, da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da, etc. And by the way, almost no poem would be composed entirely of spondees, which are double stress units, if you remember, unless the entire poem contains lines like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Unlikely. So this means that we're unlikely to ever determine a poem's primary rhythm as spondaic. In general, spondees appear in conjunction with other, more common types of rhythmic units, like your iambs and trochees. By the way guys, if you find this video helpful so far, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the thumbs up button below and also subscribe to my channel so that I can keep making these English Lit study videos for you down the line. So to demonstrate, let's read the first stanza of Robert Frost's poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. So you can tell from my reading that the measured, regular pacing of the lines should indicate an iambic rhythm, and indeed it is. And since there are 4 sets of iambs per line, this tells us that the stanza's prosodic type is iambic tetrameter. In reality though, we don't always get such neat rhythmic arrangements, as we often come across lines which contain a mix of different rhythmic units. So when that happens, what should we do? To illustrate this, let's use Macbeth's famous tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow monologue. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Now notice that even though most of the lines contain more than just iambs, each line still features 5 rhythmic units. It's just that they contain different types of rhythmic units. For instance, in the final line, the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. The first 3 rhythmic units are iambic, but they are followed by a spondee, out, out, and an ampibrach, brief candle, which could convey Macbeth's heightened emotional intensity as he exclaims and laments the brevity of life. So what we can say then is that while the main prosodic fabric of this speech is iambic pentameter, there are moments where rhythmic divergences appear to create specific effects or convey special meaning. Now this also works as a general approach for other poems or verse passages which don't follow a neat prosodic structure. In these situations, you can suss out the primary rhythmic unit first, then count how many units there are in each line before homing in on the oddballs to see if there's useful material for you to analyze. Finally, if there doesn't appear to be any set rhythmic or metrical structure to a poem at all, then it's most likely you're reading free verse, i.e. poetry that reads pretty much like prose because it doesn't follow any prosodic conventions or rules. But of course it's still poetry because there's probably going to be lineation. And that's it for this video, guys. I know this is probably kind of a heavy duty video, so please rewatch it a couple of times if you found it difficult to follow at points. Even though scansion seems intimidating for a lot of students, it can actually be kind of fun to work out the different types of meter and rhythm in a poem. I remember that for the longest time I would avoid scansion, but it was largely to my own detriment because there's so much richness in meter and rhythm. So let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below, and as always, please do hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel, and switch on the bell notification so you never miss a top grade lit to study video from yours truly. And I'll see you guys in the next video.